So as always, if you're in class, please speak up whenever you have a thought. And then if you're on Zoom, you are always welcome to speak up or post within the chat. So whatever works for you. So what are some examples of that you guys can think of you personally using intercultural communication? So my example for this could be, you know, anything, right? I'm from a different region of the US. I'm from the Midwest. So the Midwest is culturally different than the Southwest. If you ever talk to someone from another country, that is intercultural communication, someone who grew up speaking a different language. So my best friend is from the Czech Republic. I'll use him as an example quite a few times for this class just because I know him very, very well. So I use intercultural communication to talk to him. So to maintain that friendship. So how do you guys use intercultural communication?
When I worked at the daycare, there was a mother, like a family from Peru, and I had to kind of let her know how the classroom ran and just interact with her in Spanish. And some of her Spanish was different from mine because she's from a different part of the world, and like my Spanish was different from hers.
Definitely. So communicating with parents at a daycare, kids at a daycare. Other examples? So Alexis, we are looking at how do you personally use intercultural communication, which you use on a daily basis?
When I talk to my parents, because they're a different religion, so it's like there's certain, it helps that I like once was a part of the culture, so I don't know if this fully counts, but or like when I talk to my friends who are a different religion, because like what they believe and like how they do certain things are completely different than how I do. And so it's like I feel that cultural boundary a lot.
Definitely. So if you were part of a culture and then, moved out of it or moved away from it, and then having to go back into that situation where people use that, definitely. Come on, chat, pop up. People who value different things that maybe you hadn't considered. So that's going to really bother me, but I don't think anyone else, there we go, okay. So some cultures might value family a lot, and some Americans might not as much. Noah?
So like just kind of like, I speak different with my friends and with like people that are older than me, so I kind of speak culture.
Yeah. So speaking different with friends versus people who are older than you or younger than you, because each generation can have kind of their own culture too. So like our grandparents talk in very, very different ways than we do and have different belief systems and value systems than we do. They might be similar, but they're not as close as they would be if we had grown up in the same generation as they did. Because just the culture of the United States was different than, or the culture of whatever country that they were in was different.
Well, from Mexico, when I came here, obviously there was a whole different culture, and I've learned how to communicate with them better throughout time, especially at work. The food is, I work in these services, and even the food is different, and they like to eat differently with other things. And so I kind of learned how they like their food and stuff like that. So yeah, I do better with that.
So working in EA's food service, coming from Mexico, learning how to you can just prepare the food differently. Americans were sugar addicts, pretty much. Like I'm sure, like, I mean, actually the US and Mexico consume about the same amount of sugar. But it's one of those things like if you go overseas to like Europe or whatever, or to Asia, we have so much more sugar in our diet than they do that it's wild. But yeah, good example. Carter, any examples from work for you?
Yeah, it's you don't love people who are working that don't necessarily they don't speak English and nobody in my shop does. So trying to figure out what the needs of that person is different from somebody who is able to tell you exactly what they want, what they need.
So when you have coworkers or customers who you don't share a language with and trying to figure out, okay, well, what is exactly do we need to fix in here? What do we need to do? And how do we go about doing that, especially using like technical language or work-related information? That's very different than being able to like introduce yourself and hold a basic conversation in another language versus do you know the terms for, you know, this technical or mechanical issue? So thoughts from this half of the room? Any more from Zoom?
My friend, she moved here from Brazil. So it's at first she didn't know any English, but now she does. So it's just kind of communicating like the Spanish that I did know, and then hers, like kind of, intertwining them.
So trying to intertwine multiple languages to get a point across.
To make sense, yeah, it was kind of funny at the beginning.
And then,
Miss Becker,
oh,
I just got into class, my bad.
okay. Thank you for letting me know. I'll put you down.
Sorry about that.
No worries. So we're going through our discussion questions for today. So feel free to pop in whenever you have a thought or want to say something.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem. But we all use intercultural communication in some way, shape, or form. I want to say Nate or Nicholas. Nicholas. I knew it was an N. Okay. So we're just going through discussion. You didn't bring enough Starbucks for the rest of them? Sad. Okay, anyways. But we all use intercultural communication pretty much on a daily basis because we are all different. You know, if you're part of any of the sports teams, you have team members from another culture. You know, even if you are American, you interact with people from all parts of the rest of the US. So moving on to number 2, you know, think of your friends, like specifically your friends. We've already got a couple examples of that from you guys on Zoom, but what kind of cultural differences do you have? So my example for this one is my best friend. Like I said, he's from the Czech Republic. He is going to be a frequent example for intercultural communication. But I have known him for nigh on a decade. And I have never, he's from Central Europe, so that's where the Czech Republic is. I have never heard him once, like, say the word, like, I love you to anyone, even like to his parents. Like, I've never heard him say it in English, in Czech, or in Slovak. Because that's just a cultural difference that we have. So Central Europe, they are much more emotionally unconstrained. While Americans, we tend to wear our hearts on our sleeves, right? We tell our friends we love them all the time. And then, you know, when you're with someone and, you know, that's what you say, that's, you're very emotionally expressive, and culturally they're not, it's a very big difference. And it's a very big bridge you have to get because it's just different. It depends on what type of love. So there's different ways to express love. You can say like "Mam te rada," which just means like I like you a lot. Or you could say like "Mamuyute," which is like "I love you," like you'd say to your spouse or to like one of your parents possibly. But even then, like it's not something that you really hear. You also don't see physical affection as much. Like you don't see people like holding hands or kissing out in public. You tend to see that more here in the US. People don't like really touch each other when they're greeting each other either. So like when I first went to college, there was an Argentinian guy. First time he ever met me, like gave me a hug and like kiss on the cheek. And it's like, okay, cultural difference. But it's, just different things. So doesn't mean it's wrong or it's bad or it's good or it's better or worse. It just means that's the way it is. That's the way people are raised. Americans, we tend to like a lot of eye contact. Asian cultures and some of the Native American tribes and stuff, you don't do a lot of eye contact because it's not respectful. That's just not what you do. So what about your guys' friends? What kind of cultural differences do you have between the people that you are close with, that you have managed to maintain friendships with despite that?
It's something simple, but my family, whenever we leave the house or say bye to one another, we say bye, like bye, I love you. And then like whenever I go to my friend's house, then we would leave. They would like say anything to them, like, aren't you gonna say bye and I love you or something? I guess it was just like something our families done.
Yeah, so when you leave someplace or leave your family saying bye, I love you, versus people not saying that because maybe the way they're raised culturally or whatever, it's just that's not what they do. Part of it's always cultural and part of it's always personal. Like some people just personally are more expressive and more not. So personality is the way everything ties together is interesting sometimes. So.
My friend is Italian. She's very expressive, especially with the hands. The hand thing is real.
Yes.
And one time she's like ranting to me, and she's like in my face. And she's like, I don't understand what. And then I'm just like laughing, and she's like, why are you laughing? And I'm like, look at your hands, and she's like.
She was like, I'm the living embodiment of a stereotype right
Yeah,
now.
like, she tries to fight it, but
So Italian friends talking with their hands a lot. So being expressive. And it's interesting to see how like when people travel, they might pick up on some of that stuff. Because like I know when I was in Italy, well, it wasn't last summer now, because this summer was COVID. 2 summers ago, like people got more expressive when we were over there and stuff, because that's just part of the culture. You see other people doing it and you pick up on it to kind of blend in a little bit more. Other thoughts?
We have a really close family friend and then also her parents who are from Canada. And I don't know if this is just like their family thing or if it's like all Canadians kind of thing, but they're really blunt. Like not in a mean way, not in a bad way. They're just like, oh yeah, here's like, they just state things like they're the facts because, when they're the facts, they're the facts. And it's like, they're really nice people, which is a Canadian stereotype, but they're just blunt. And I'm not used to like just getting it that straightforward because a lot of times, you'll get more like toned down versions or people will like kind of skirt around the subject a little bit rather than just being like, yeah, this.
I feel like that might be kind of a remnant of the British and French colonization past, because the British are also pretty blunt.
Oh, I go to work and there's a lady that goes and I do lots and she's from Russia. And she was saying that when she first moved here, she married a man from here and she made spaghetti and meatballs for breakfast. Because she was like, we just do that in Russia. And that's what we ate. And he was like, what the heck? Why are you making this for breakfast? That was
Spaghetti and meatballs for breakfast
Yeah.
versus like, I don't know, what's the stereotypical American breakfast, like bacon and eggs?
yeah.
So pancakes. Oh yeah. But yeah, food can be differences. Like some of my friends make like really good pupusas. Yeah. Let's not get started on food because then I'm just gonna be sitting here like quietly hungry.
My mom makes the best.
Bring her to class next time. But the way people celebrate holidays or traditions. So do people have different like Christmas traditions? Did I celebrate Kwanzaa? Did I celebrate Hanukkah? Did I celebrate Yule? How do they do that? Do they celebrate extra holidays or not as many holidays? Are there certain things they won't eat because of that? Do they not eat beef because they're Hindu? Do they not eat pork because they're Muslim or Jewish? Those are all different cultural things that also tie into religion and whatnot. But a lot of those things are just very intertwined. Any last thoughts on that second one before we move on? Okay, so that third one, that compelling reason or whatever, that's just, it's just kind of something to think about. Like, why do you guys personally want to learn more about intercultural communication? Like, do you want to travel? Are you planning on going on a mission? Do you want to work internationally? Do you have lots of friends? You know, is your partner from somewhere else or different culturally? So you want to learn more so you can interact with their family better. You know, but those are all personal reasons to people, or are you just here because you have to be for the course credit and because it's an intensive writing? I see a couple eyes that are saying yes. No judgment on that, like honestly. So moving on to some of the highlights from our second reading. So communication helps us meet needs. There are 4 main needs that it helps us take care of. So you have your physical needs, your instrumental needs, your relational needs, and your identity needs. So we're going to try to think of examples of how you guys have met all of these needs. Maybe if not today, but at some point in the next week, because it is only like 10 o'clock in the morning. So our physical needs. So communication helps meet our physical needs by when we, order food or whatever. I had something to say. Yeah, so in India, I believe it's like shaking their head means yes and nodding their head means no. So Suzette, that might be that's just one of those things that I'm pretty sure when they shake their head, they mean like yes, and they're trying to like agree with you. And then we do the opposite, of course, in the US. But physical needs, so we have to let other people know if our physical needs aren't being met. So if we're saying, hey, I'm hungry, or if we're going over to the cafe and ordering food. Our instrumental needs are our day-to-day needs. So if we want to influence others, try to convince them to go do something with us, get information. So maybe your roommate's playing their TV too loud and you want to get them to turn it down so you can go to bed or whatever. Or maybe, they're being obnoxious, or maybe you want to go and get coffee with them or whatever. Then you would communicate to meet that instrumental, your day-to-day needs. Your relational needs. So you have a need to build social bonds and interact with other people. So sorry, I just totally lost my train of thought. But it's how we just interact with other people. So like when you maintain your friendships, when you go and sit down and talk to someone, you are meeting your relational needs. So maybe it is just sitting down with your roommate over lunch and just chatting about your day. You are meeting that relational need. And then you have your identity needs. So we want ourselves to be thought of in certain ways. You're wearing an NAU lumberjack sweater because you want to be associated, or you are associated with NAU in some way, shape, or form. That is a Dome football shirt, Super Bloom, Champion brand, Fox brand. Okay, you're repping it all today, Carter. Adidas, or insert whatever other here, repping really ugly Scandinavian Christmas sweaters. But we have a desire to be thought of in certain ways, so we present ourselves in those ways. So what are some ways that you guys have met these needs today? Or within the past couple days that you can remember. So relational needs. So going over to your friend's house, having dinner, just chatting or whatever would be an example of something like that.
Well, my car isn't working today. So I got a ride from my friend. And then we also went to Starbucks.
Didn't invite the rest of us. So yeah, getting a ride from a friend because your car broke down. So, and then if you were hungry, so you met that physical need by saying, hey, let's go to Starbucks. You know, you had to get to class, so your instrumental need of like, hey, can you give me a ride? And then also building that relationship at the same time of saying, we're gonna hang out for a little bit, you know, thank you for doing me this favor, with the expectation of like, if they need a favor in the future, they can come to you and you'll be like, oh yeah, I can give you a ride to wherever. So, and some interactions like that, you know, it picks more than one because not all of these are exclusionary. Mutually exclusive is the word I'm looking for. English, I swear. Because you can meet multiple needs with a single interaction or a single conversation. Because, you know, with communication, everything is connected. So while you're, you know, talking to your friend, telling jokes, trying to reaffirm to yourself that you're funny, you know, someone just laughed at me because they know it's true. You're also building that relationship and stuff like that. So, any other good examples?
Sleeping.
Yeah. You know, if your roommate tries to come and wake you up and you're just like, nope, go away, I still need more sleep. So communicating about that physical need that you have. Any thoughts from anyone on Zoom?
I'm gonna go with identity needs. This morning I posted a funny picture of my husband going outside in the snow and doing a snow angel in his underwear. That's kind of like a funny thing, right?
Yeah, so being, you know, having the need to be seen as like funny or humorous, posting stuff. How many of us have like Instagram or other social media? Probably a lot of us. But posting pictures on there and wanting to get likes and stuff, so that need to feel like, oh, well, you know, I'm attractive, or I post cool memes or whatever. So I feel like you'd run a meme page.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm gonna follow a lot of them.
So, but yeah, so just anything that you do to try to show people something about yourself. So communication examples that may not be appropriate in all contexts or all cultures. So that example I gave of like one of my first days in college, that the student from Argentina came up with kissing everybody on the cheeks and stuff. It was culturally appropriate for him, but we were up in Alaska where that was just, that's probably not something that you do. Just because you don't know these people, you're in college, who knows what kind of weirdos are up there. So any other examples of communication that you guys have been in or observed that might not have been appropriate for the context or the culture in which it occurred?
I got one. So, I know a guy from Germany who went to high school together. He was an exchange student. He were talking about something during class, and at some point he started to swear, just F this, F that, to the point where the rest of the class heard it. And everybody else was shocked. It was just kind of going on like it was guess that's just been normal work over there. He says that it's nothing wrong with it. Normal communication with him, but just
Especially for this area. Well, I think because I think you're from outside of this town. But if that happened in this town, then like at Thatcher High, yeah. So exchange students starting cussing in class, thinking it's normal for them, find out apparently that's not normal in high school. So, I mean, I've had students do that in this class too, like from Australia and stuff. It's like, probably shouldn't drop the see you next Tuesday words here in the US because you might get hit. So,
Yeah, and then if identity, communication with you when you wake up in the morning, you don't want to be like the class, you don't want the teacher in here always ready.
yep. So we're going to take a step back to identity and like waking up earlier on time, trying to make sure you're not late so you can be seen in a specific light. Yep. Dressing a certain way so that you're perceived as put together or not. And then Alexis, was it you would thought?
I was watching this movie of the missionary that went to Congo, and there, apparently they birth after eating, they said like you really like this food. And so it was something really nice to do, so that the person who prepared it would know that you really liked it, and that you were, I guess, grateful for that.
So burping after meals in some places. In some places in Asia, like slurping your noodles is polite because you're slurping because it's good. Some places, like if you go to certain places, like in certain people's houses and stuff, if you finish your entire plate, they will just keep bringing you more food because if you finish the plate, they assume you're still hungry. So if you're done, leave a little bit of food on your plate. Otherwise, they'll just keep bringing it. And then, you have a full plate of food that you can't eat because you're just like, oh my gosh. And then to be culturally polite, you have to eat a little bit more. So.
So I actually had something about identities and stuff like that. So I'm from Utah, and I feel like if you're not LDS, you kind of don't fit in. I know that's not how it is other places. So that's just kind of something I feel like most people grew up LDS, and so if you're not LDS, you really don't fit in that much as well as other people would. So.
Definitely. So any place where there's a majority of any kind of anything, and you're not part of that majority, it definitely can feel like you're not fitting in, especially if there is a very tight-knit or strong culture surrounding whatever that thing is. So then you either have to like blend in or just make it very clear that you're not part of that culture. And we'll talk about that later too. Like, do you adapt to different cultures that you go into? Or do you kind of rebel and say, well, I'm not going to be associated with that or whatever? So do we have any more examples of contexts, cultures, and situations?
So I guess I went to like LDS and everything. I'm from Phoenix. I am not a member. I was not expecting Thatcher to have such a high majority. And I'm friends with a lot of people who are members and everything. And one day, me and my roommate last year, we went to like this like one party, and it was just like it was all members, but like we weren't. And we played this game on our phones called Photo Roulette. Where what it does is it takes a random photo from your photo library and puts it to everybody playing the game, and everybody has to guess whose phone it's from. Now, me and my roommate probably have very different pictures on our phone than what everybody else would have. And it was like more like specifically like memes. Like it was like really like just like dirty humor, memes and everything. I got lucky the whole night. I was having pictures of my mom, like me and my mom, and like really nice, cool pictures. And like I was getting really lucky. And then my roommate had this like really, really, it was weird even for me. Like the photo that came up. And it came up and all of them were terrified. Like they were, and I was just like, that's kind of weird, but I was like, whatever. But they were like, oh, like they didn't know what to do. So I mean, I guess that's an example.
Definitely. And I don't know, it's pretty funny. Alexis, you're laughing like you were there. Were you at that party?
No.
Oh, you're like, what kind of picture would show up that would terrify a room full of, anyways, I don't know. I mean, it's the same way, like I have multiple tattoos. I don't like show them during work or whatever, because that's not the culture of the area that I live in. So, but yes, so I guess moral of the story, if you ever go play photo roulette, just make sure that you put them into a hidden folder if you need to. I'd never even heard of that, but probably different generation. So, but yeah, but the same thing would happen like if you were overseas at a different culture. Like they might not understand all the American memes. You might not understand all their memes either. So it's just one of those things that it's just a different culture. It's a different way of living and being and believing. So what does how you present yourself and your artifacts tell others about who you are, both as a cultural being and as an individual? So an artifact is anything that you consider identifying, anything that means something. So a wedding ring is an artifact, a CTR ring is an artifact, a necklace is an artifact, a tattoo is an artifact. So if you have like branded things, so like EA mask or lumberjack sweater, insert whatever here, those can all be considered artifacts, whether they be personal artifacts because it's, a necklace or a ring that you got from, your mom, or a cultural artifact because you wear like a CTR ring. So, or if you have specific, cultural clothes that you wear or things like that. Or cultural tattoos. So like a lot of the Samoan students and like Hawaiian Pacific Islander students have tattoos that are culturally meaningful. So what kind of artifacts do we have, and then what do they tell us about ourselves?
I have a really good one. Like, all Mexicans have to be smart on the right arm. Like here, all Mexicans have it. So when we are born, like they do like a vaccine or something like that.
Oh.
And we all have the same heart.
So having all the same scar from vaccines as a child. So I wonder if that's like the polio vaccine or something. We've eradicated polio, I guess. So other ones?
My family has a lot of amber because it's just the thing that Poles love amber. Like, we just really like amber. At first I thought it was just my family growing up, and then I would watch movies and stuff where they make other jokes about it. So I guess that's it. A lot of jewelry, a lot of amber jewelry.
Fair enough. So a lot of amber jewelry, Polish. I was just gonna say maybe they're just really huge fans of Jurassic Park, but
That is great.
oh, if you were in my public speaking class, it was so much fun. Is there anyone here in my public speaking class? Only one. Okay. Spoiler alert, there's one day that we get to sell dinosaurs. We have to like persuade other people to buy dinosaurs in the class. So preview, think about what kind of dinosaurs you like. But yeah, family jewelry, if everyone or a whole bunch of your family has a specific kind that they like or that's been passed down or brought over, it's like, hey, no, your great-grandfather made this over in Poland and then we brought it when we immigrated. Lexus? I mean, it could be. It's If you consider it culturally identifying, then sure. So having an accent, so you have an accent, Noah has an accent, Pedro de Bolsa has an accent, Karen Preston has an accent because she's from Missouri, or she's from somewhere in the South. Arkansas, right. So, anything else?
I know that tattoos can be part of them because I have a girlfriend who's part of my religion, and tattoos aren't really necessarily accepted. We try to not we see tattoos as not like destroying our body, but like just defacing it in some sort of way. But I know personally, like people get tattoos for personal reasons or for certain meanings, and I know that she's done it, and she's like, there are certain meanings to me and how important they are to me. And I was like, I never would do that to myself because I would like totally back out instantly. But like I know people get tattoos for certain reasons and how important they are. And I know people like who've gone through adoption, they get the adoption sign on them. So I've seen like that go through people and see how that can change cultures and how people can read different people.
So you can get a tattoo to identify you as part of a culture, like adopted or whatever, or as part of your culture, you could say, we don't typically do tattoos. So there are some cultures where getting tattooed is part of like becoming an adult and growing up, and other cultures where it's like, if you're part of this culture, you probably don't have any.
Like my family, my sister passed away, we all got just like similar tattoo up there. Little hand.
So like remembrance tattoos. So like whole family got remembrance tattoos if a family member passes away. So something to remember them by. But that identifies you as part of that family because you all have something similar. So if anyone else knows about it, they're like, oh, well, they must be related to these people. Closing thoughts on artifacts. I know you have some, Carter, because you're married, so I assume you wear a wedding ring.
I can't wear it because of my job. Safety hazard. You have to have it.
Fair enough. So could wear one, but don't because of safety stuff. Understandable. But yeah, artifacts can be anything that you consider identifying to yourself. Next.
So would a jersey be an artifact?
Yeah, like a sports jersey that says "Woohoo, go Barca." No, we're all Manchester fans here. Alexis is like, I'm gonna put my headphones back in and pretend I didn't hear that. But yeah, anything that identifies you as part of something or that says something about you can be considered an artifact.
Like me, I always wear bracelets. I don't know why I've always worn them.
Bracelets, just personal thing of like, no, this is just what I do. That's what I like. So therefore, I'm gonna do it. Why not? So cool. Okay, well, I think we're gonna take a couple minute break. Let's say until 10:20. So we have 5-minute break. If you guys need to get a drink of water, if you need to get up, walk around a bit. I will do attendance real fast for the people who popped in a couple seconds late. We got Nick in. Did we get Holly in? Nope. Did we get Tom? Nope. But we got George. Okay. So. No, we're all just like, we want to go look at the snow. What is your, last night, I had to go to my car and buy sometimes to get the 12-volt on, like 12, because we didn't have like rain and snow in the car in the morning. So I think like I could just be out with the car online, just have like that fail safe where if there's something wrong, it won't be out. So even then, battery probably dead at this point because it was on all night. So I can clean it out or whatever, so whenever any time like go to snow. But there's if you want to come on and pick that up, I have both keys, I have title and all the other stuff on there.
Yeah, I probably used to send the money from three to so I'll let you know.
Okay, I want to start parking back there again, so like it's my parking spot is full. No. I don't know, if you think, would it be easier for him to get it from the parking lot rather than back there? Right? So we have to make sure that there's not parking. But I think it's I think they just kind of pull it, it's like, forget it, like, the road, but it gets close now, like, I know it's a little like, thing that is. You guys follow this now, I think so. Around here. But they're gonna be building the new complex that's right behind that. In the office place, so I assume so if they have to go out there for survey. But I don't think there's another year or two. I that one thing on like it's so long. I mean, it's supposed to be pretty solid, and if you want to. Okay. Okey-dokey. Okay, guys. So welcome back. And I guess I should have paused the recording because otherwise, it's one of those things. So please do not forget, if you have not done so already, go in, do the discussion. So how has globalization impacted your life in particular? So globalization, if you have not quite done the reading yet, it's just the world is becoming smaller in a sense because, you know, with social media, with communication technologies, with being able to ship things super easily, send things over the internet, you know, we're so much more connected than we've ever been. It's so easy to travel, you know, across the world, you know, over the course of 1 or 2 days. You know, we can get to pretty much wherever we want to go. So how has that impacted you? Whether it be, you know, movies coming over. So maybe you've decided that you really love Bollywood movies. Maybe you've introduced your friends to some cultural products from your own home. Maybe they are now obsessed with, you know, Mexican candies. You know, maybe you are now obsessed with, you know, Snickers or something. What's stereotypically American? Cheetos, maybe Doritos. Or globalization, like COVID. Someone asked if COVID would be an example of globalization, because yeah, if we didn't have super easy cross-country travel, you know, it would have stayed pretty much where it originated for a really long time and then slowly made its way over here instead of being like, oh, okay, like 3 weeks later, you know, we have it all across the world. So that's in a way globalization has impacted your life. But please don't everyone use COVID. Do you consider yourself more of a relativist or universalist in regards to ethics? And we talked about that on Thursday in chapter 1, where we said, you know, do you think there are more universal things that keep cultures together, more universal ethics of, you know, these things are good and these things are bad? Or do you think it's more relative and should only be judged within the context of that culture? So, you know, you can't judge a culture for headhunting to say, you know, Carter has to go chop someone's head off before he can become a man in the eyes of society, because that's just what their culture does. You know, have there been any times where you've broken social norms or made a faux pas? You know, how did people react to it? Were you able to save the situation? So were there any times you guys did that when you first came over to the US? And but you guys probably have some good examples. We have all, or we will all do that at some point, whether it's messing up a word and, you know, doing something or whatever. And then can you think of movie or music video, video game, whatever that deals with intercultural communication? Find a clip and post it so that we can see, you know, just what you think it is. So is that Gangnam Style? That looks like it is. Do you guys remember that when like the huge craze or whatever, and everyone was doing like the flash dances or whatever? Was that like 2012?
Yeah, I remember being like 11.
That was my daughter's favorite song forever, like in her favorite video.
I just felt a lot older. Thank you. Thanks. But that's definitely intercultural, because like we're looking at what we're watching it from here in the US and saying, oh, so that's what South Korea looks like. That's kind of cool. Strange or whatever. So basically anything with Anthony Bourdain or any other travel show would probably be great for that too, especially like with the food and stuff. So we only have like 15 minutes left or whatever. So guys, just go do this. Please make sure that you go and are doing the reading. So when we do our discussions, you are able to participate more fully. Like I know this is like the start of week 2, so we're still kind of getting into the groove of stuff, but just expect that we will be having class discussions that you are expected to participate in them in some way, shape, or form, whether you are on Zoom and typing it out or whether you are in class on giving your opinion verbally. So any questions before we head on out? Okay, awesome. No, thank you. We will see you guys later.